Hello, my name is Lee Hutton. I'm a student at College of Coastal Georgia in the Psychology 3000 Research Methods and Statistics class. And today I'll be doing a presentation on an experiment that I will be proposing entitled The Effect of Social Media on People's Empathy Towards Others. So, how I developed this hypothesis was that during the Stanley Milgram obedience experiment, I noted that when the teacher was inducing the voltage into the learner, that they had hesitated when were face to face with the other person, as opposed to when the earlier part of the experiment, when they did it, they were in separate rooms, and it seemed to be that they would almost always go all the way up to the highest voltage with no hesitation. So my idea was, if they could see the person face to face, that was the difference between the two. Well, how would that effect carry over to modern day, like in social media, like when we make posts online and people make comments into those posts, it's in a separate environment. You don't see the person, you're just on a keyboard in a different room, and people will write some of the most hellacious things ever, mean, rude, hateful things to people in those comment sections. And my idea was that it's just because they can't see the reaction of the person. And so this made me think, well, what effect does social media have on empathy towards others? And that's what was my driving point for this. So the publications that I had researched for this hypothesis was I dug into the Journal of Analytical Psychology. That was the report where Dr. Sue Austin had worked with a patient. It was a case study of one patient who had already had an established hatred of oneself. It was a very strong hatred of themselves. And I could see some of the parallels of how quickly these people, or that person, was able to just immediately take a comment and immediately have them go in a downward spiral. And that kind of helped me see, like, okay, what can we do to find people that are already in that present state of mind, that have that saddened state, and use that as kind of like the worst case scenario, the apex, and then kind of go down from there. Some of the other publications that I used, the qualitative health research, that was a good study that I found with Dr. Allison Cook and Dr. Debbie Smith and Dr. Andrew Booth. A lot of that information was with the statistics and being able to build based off of a survey. And my idea was to hybrid a survey as part of the selection process, and then from that selection process have the experiment take place, because we'll know based upon the means, median, and averages of the test, that these people, that the people that were chosen for the experiment would fit the criteria to the best. So the method that I would use, as I spoke about earlier, would be to use the SurveyMonkey survey to develop the questions that would isolate whether the person was quick to anger in a comment section. They were very pointed towards like, how would you respond to this? How would you respond to this scenario? And I did add just an enter the number 3 here question to kind of null out some of the people that are just kind of people pleasing and clicking through just to do a survey or just to be there. After that, from those results from that survey, I would take those test subjects would be put into 2 categories. Either they'd be the commenters on the post that would be made, or the person making the post in the simulated environment. Okay, so during the conduct of this procedure, we would start each of the 2 tests with a Likert depression scale test, where all personnel in the testing would give how they were currently feeling on a scale of 0 to 10, 0 being none at all, 10 being absolute extremity of that feeling. And each of the symptoms, as you can see here, we had depressed, unhappy, fatigued, guilty, and they go all the way down. The higher the number being, like I said, would be a higher feeling of that symptom. So then we would tabulate all those scores and we would put it at the bottom for each patient. First time being the baseline. Then we would conduct the test where the poster would make a post simulated in like a simulated environment of a Facebook or social media post, and then the commenters would comment how they felt about that post, based upon the criticality of how they felt about it. It was pretty dynamic. Wasn't really, you couldn't really predict it. You kind of give them leading points, but we didn't want to control how exactly what they posted. We wanted to leave it as open as possible. And then after the test was commenced and the commenter had chance to read the post, and then the poster had a chance to read the post, then we would give the Likert depression scale again to see if the numbers had changed. And then we reran the test again, doing the Likert depression scale before, and then this time, the second time, we gave each of the commenters and posters a 15-minute session where they would sit together, talk, get to know each other, and then started the test. And we could see here from the results, the expected results that we thought we were going to see was the that minimal variance of the 25% between through the Stanley Milgram experiment. When they ran that variable, when they changed that variable, they did see that 25% change towards not pressing the button. So I was expecting to see that sort of a minimum amount of change after the people got to know each other and could see the reactions of what they were writing in their post, if they could see how the person felt about it, if they could see the facial expressions and feel and knew the person that they were talking about. I felt like it would grow by that at least a minimum of that 25%. So as we know, the Milgram experiment was pretty ethically edgy. So we did want to keep in mind the peak four things in ours, which was the making sure that we had the informed consent, protecting all the participants' rights and well-beings all throughout the entire testing, minimizing any potential harm that could come, and this would be a little bit more detailed because it is more mental health instead of physical anguish, kind of how you saw in the prison experiment, not the Milgram experiment, but the prison experiment where they were hitting each other. The guards would beat the prisoners and stuff like. We didn't want to go to that extremity, obviously, but that was in our paramount in our selection process, or during our ethics observation of this. And we do want to maintain the transparency in reporting results and making sure that each of the patients knew the results that would occur. So in conclusion, there is a notable difference between treating others with empathy and providing constructive criticism. That was a note that was brought up. A lot of people were just trying to be helpful to the person in the post that they saw. They didn't mean any ill will or ill intent by their message, but it was drawn that way by inconclusiveness because they couldn't talk to each other. The line was drawn, and it just became an angry fight between. So there is some kind of ambiguity there that I'd like to rerun the test and see, but 25% is still pretty good in my opinion. The references though that I used are all here, and I'll provide those to you as you need. You can click on any of the links there. I do recommend that you use the Galileo function to be able to find these, so you don't have to pay for those reports. But they are very thorough, and they did help me dramatically help build my experiment. Thank you for your time, and have a great day.